what I still want to drive home with the voters here in this district is that we all have these issues in common. So we really need to come together and fight to do those things.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
All right. So you're listening to one of our special episodes where we're interviewing candidates for public office across the state of Alabama. And we have on the line now Prince Cleveland. He is running for Alabama State House District 43. Prince, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. And so we can just start off with an introduction to you. Who are you? What did you do? What is your career? What do you do for work? And, some of your background and what motivated you to run for office.
Okay. Well, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Jacob, for having me on this afternoon. Again, my name is Prince Cleveland, and I grew up in Bessemer, Alabama, and I went on to the University of Alabama where I received a bachelor's and master's degree there. And after that, I moved on to working on political campaigns, nonprofit organizations, and now I'm working in the private sectors here in Shelby County and with the EBSCO Industries. I would say that the main thing that motivated me to run for office, especially running for this House seat, is that I just wanted to give the people who live here in this district a choice, because this district is historically what they call a pretty red district, and I'm a Democrat running in this red district. But I wanted to give the voters here more of a option in November to choose from, one that will actually go to Montgomery and actually voice their issues and not focus on the issues that are designed to distract and deceive us, that the supermajority seems to focus on for the past, for the better part of decades since they've been in control of their state legislature. And I just felt that it was about time for me to get off the sidelines and get into the field, and then actually just stop complaining about what needs to be done and actually do something about it. So this is why I'm in the race, and that's why I want to go to Montgomery to make sure that we have a voice that will voice the issues that a lot of the people who here in this district will care about.
Growing up in Bessemer, were your parents ever involved in politics, or Bessemer actually has a pretty interesting union history with the mine mill union over there. Were any of your family involved in any politics or labor stuff over there?
Well, my parents were never really involved in I guess politics per se, but I know that my mom always took me to go vote with her. The thing is, she never missed an election, and I think that kind of wore off on me when she would always bring me to the elections, bring me to the polls when she went to vote, to just kind of, I guess, give me a view of like, this is what we need to do to ensure that we have a better world for all of us. So again, that kind of wore off on me, and then I guess that's kind of why I bring that with me now. That I get that sense of citizenship, that sense of that we need to take ownership of what we must do in this in our communities. I said I grew. We didn't really have like I guess a lot of union involvement in my immediate family. But from my great uncles, there was a lot of union involvement there, because I have a great uncle that I never met, but before I was born, he was a coal miner in Kentucky, Lynch, Kentucky, as a matter of fact. And then my grandmother's brothers, they moved from Alabama and they went to Detroit to work in the auto factories. And my grandmother would always tell me about how her brothers would come back down with their automobiles from the from the auto factory. So that was kind of a big deal. You coming back down to the South with your nice automobile. But that showed you that that employment in the auto factories up there, that gave those workers a chance at a better life, gave them a chance at a middle class experience. And then and I think that that's kind of lost right now in society right now. But I am kind of happy that it is a more of a, I guess, more of a union tradition that is bubbling up right now currently and throughout the country. And I hope that hopefully will give us a chance at a giving a lot of workers throughout this country and right here in the state a chance at the American dream.
I think it's an important part of it, certainly. So District 43, that the Bessemer area, or is that a different area from where you grew up?
Well, it's a different area. I did grow up in Bessemer in Jefferson County, but now I live in Shelby County. I've been here for the better part of a decade now. This is where I work. This is where I live. This is where I, go to the grocery store. This is where I fill my prescriptions. It's it's mainly focused in North Shelby County. It's from the Jefferson Shelby County line on Highway 280, and then it moves across to just outside of Chelsea, and then it moves south down through a lot of the communities like Hoover, Pelham, Helena. Uh, One of the main things I tell people is that the two high schools within the district is Oak Mountain High School and Spain Park High School. So if you live around those particular areas, more than likely you can vote for me. But again, this is historically a red district, and I'm a Democrat running in this red district. But I've been very I've met a lot of people that are hungry for some change, and that's even from Republicans. So, and people who don't subscribe to any political party, they subscribe to as being independents. So that's one of the main reasons why I'm running, because I want to give those voters that feel that they're being left out of the conversation an actual choice in November.
Yeah, and so given those voters a choice, what are the things that you're representing that they can choose? What are some of the things that you get in office and you're given a magic wand? What are some of the things that top three policy policy proposals would you want to try to push through in Montgomery?
Okay. Well, I based my campaign ever since I started running is that I wanted to focus on the issues that I feel that I know that we all have in common. And those issues that I think that we do have in common is that we need to get rid of the grocery tax. We need to expand Medicaid. And then we also need to focus on our students, because for so long, it seemed that we have always focused on the building and the institution, but not the actual student. Um, just a few months ago, I met a voter that he called himself a Trump Republican, and he told me that he could never vote for a Democrat. But once I started talking to him about why I'm running for the state legislature, the first issue that caught his attention was that we need to get rid of the grocery tax, because he said that you have me right there. And then I think from that point on, he considered that he actually would consider voting for me in November. So, what that showed to me is that despite what we see on the 24-hour news cycle or what pundits tell us, we may not be as divided as we think we are. As long as we know that we turn the temperature down and then just turn the volume down and actually have a conversation with one another, we can see that we actually have a lot of things in common, and we have the same goals in common, that we want to provide a better life for our families, and we want government to work for us, and we want government to respond to us when we ask them. So, but those were the three main things that I know that we should focus on, uh, that will bring us all together, and then hopefully we can find solutions for those if I'm fortunate enough to be elected to the state legislature.
Yeah, you mentioned three things there, and I think two of them are pretty concrete. They, pretty self-explanatory: ending the grocery tax and expanding Medicaid. Those are, those are specific things that you're wanting to do. But you mentioned education, and you mentioned focusing on the student as opposed to the building, maybe. And I'm wondering if you can drill down into what you mean by that.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I would want to focus on is like, well, certainly when I went to start canvassing with out in the district, I came across a couple of teachers, and one of those teachers, he's from Florida, and then he's teaching right here in Alabama, and he said that it just we're there are many states that are miles ahead of the state of Alabama, and he said that it's frustrating. And he said one of those things why we're miles like behind a lot of other states is that we're not focusing on one of the things, a lot of programs like trade education. And I just wanted to give students more of an opportunity so that they could, uh, I guess, see Alabama as an option to build their life here. Because a lot of the times you see that a lot of it when the students graduate from high school, they leave the state of Alabama and they leave that and they take the talent that they have with them and they just leave us, pretty high and dry. But I can understand because they feel that they don't have any opportunity here. But one of the reasons why I wanted to focus more on education is that, education of the student is that I want to give those students more of an opportunity that they will consider staying here in the state of Alabama. Um, and another thing that I wanted to do is just to make sure that we are protecting funding for our public education system. Shelby County here is probably has like some of the best schools probably in the state, maybe in the nation. But as you know, that from the past legislative sessions, the Republicans, a supermajority down there in Montgomery, they typically try to gut public education spending. As we saw in this last legislative session, that they wanted to create what they call the Parent Choice Act, was what to take about $5,000 from public schools, the public school fund for each student, and put it into private education. Now, I don't have a problem with, if parents want to provide another option for their children to attend a private school, but we shouldn't do it at the expense of public education. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that I want to do is just make sure that we have those programs in place, that we ensure that our students have an option to stay here in the state of Alabama and keep their talents here. And also to ensure that spending for public education is remains at the level that it is, and maybe even more. Well, actually, a lot more, so that we can invest in those students and not just take those funds away from them. And like I say, even though Shelby County is seen as kind of a well-to-do area, taking funds out of the public education system still hurts us also in this county also, whether it was in a rural area or in an urban area throughout the state of Alabama. So that's another thing. What I still want to drive home with the voters here in this district is that we all have these issues in common. So we really need to come together and fight to do those things.
Yeah, and the emphasis on the trade stuff is really important because I think maybe there's starting to be a bit of a shift, but the thing that I always heard going through high school, it was explicit or implicit that, if you don't go to college, you're not going to be worth anything. You're not going to be able to get a good job. And that's just not the case. And there are real opportunities in the trades with the trade unions to be able to make a really good salary. I mean, people, if I had right now, so I have I've got a college degree, work in the public sector. I make reasonable money. I have good benefits. But if instead of going to college, I had went into the trades with one of the unions, with the IBEW, I would have had those 4 years where I was earning money, working a full-time job, had money, and I would be making more than I am now.
Exactly.
Being an electrician or something.
Exactly.
And there's no and it's important to emphasize the trade unions part of it too. And as part of the labor council, I'm trying to work with some of the school board folks to get the unions in the schools for career days, because people think trades, but they don't understand that there is a huge difference between what you're going to get with a non-union construction job and what you're going to get with a union construction job, with a union trade job. There's a world of difference there. But I appreciate that elaboration. I heard my spidey senses went up when you said something about focusing on the student instead of the building. because and I'm glad that you specifically mentioned that you were not supportive of, you know, the school voucher programs, because that's one of the things that they'll say is they say like, oh, we want funding to follow the student, not the building or not the school. And so and you know, occasionally Democrats get weird about, you know, school privatization, school choice stuff too. And so I was like, you raised my eyebrow a little bit. I was giving you a side eye, but you passed the test.
Okay.
Yeah,
but again, I mean, it still goes. I'm sorry, Adam.
No, I was just gonna say, I think I appreciate that you clarified that, and it is important that public education dollars go to public education. And I'm a former educator, and I agree with you. If a family decides a private school is the best option for them and their family, then by all means go for it. But that shouldn't be at the expense of everyone left at the public school. And so, yeah, and I just really do appreciate Medicaid expansion and the grocery tax removal as two of your priorities. And I think we've seen groups like Alabama Arise and other good advocacy organizations, you know, fighting on these issues, and they have put solutions out there on the table. And it's just been so frustrating that the legislators in Montgomery and the governor's office, it seems like they just don't want to even engage with Medicaid expansion and the grocery tax removal, which, like you said, are very popular. I mean, across partisan lines, Republican, Democrat, we all have to pay that bill at Kroger's and Walmart, and it's not fun. And we all know people who don't have the medical care that they need. I think about my own mom was caught in that coverage gap where, you know, she made too much to get Medicaid, but not enough to get the subsidies through the ACA, and was left holding the bill every month for insurance that she couldn't afford to use. And it's just, yeah, it's so frustrating to know that there's solutions on the table.
And like I said, I'm fortunate enough that I can go to the grocery store and buy what I feel that I need. But the thing is, like, I went to the grocery store just last night, and my bill was like more than it probably should be for the items that I bought. But the thing is that, again, like I said, the getting rid of the grocery tax is something that affects all of us. And then a lot of people feel that it's not affecting them because they may make a lot of, they may make a six-figure salary. But again, that's one of those taxes that really, like, it taxes all of us, and it taxes the low income Alabamians even more. And I don't know. I mean, I just feel like I just have enough empathy that, you know, we should get rid of it, not just for myself, but just for people who are fighting to survive each day. And actually, that just getting rid of that state grocery tax can make a difference for a lot of people here in the state and right here in this district too, even if they are, well, you know, what they call high income or middle income.
Yeah, well, you know, and they talk, yeah, I mean, Republicans are supposed to hate taxes. They're supposed to be for, you know, small government, working people and stuff. And it's amazing that they've had a supermajority trifecta for 10 years, and they just in the last session passed another business tax cut, and they still we are still one of the only states in the country that have full taxes on groceries, and they're doing all of this partisan stuff about inflation. Inflation is Biden's fault, all of this. Inflation at its peak was 10%. I think we're starting to come down now. And if we were able, if we completely eliminated the grocery tax, if the state and local governments got rid of their grocery tax and got the money from somewhere else, like maybe increasing the income tax on wealthier Alabamians instead of taxing literally the poorest on our groceries, then that totally eliminates the cost of inflation for groceries. But they don't.
Exactly.
They're not doing that.
And like I said, there was a move in this past legislative session actually from a Republican. A Republican senator was teamed up with a Democratic representative to actually move on getting rid of the grocery tax. But of course, you know, the supermajority, in their infinite wisdom, they decided that it's not something that we should focus on. But again, like as you said, we should focus on giving more tax breaks to people that really don't need another tax break. But getting rid of the grocery tax will be a tax break for all Alabamians.
Arnold Mooney is your Republican opponent. Are there any, what are some highlights about Arnold Mooney in particular? Because I know Arnold Mooney is fairly prominent as a Republican, is my understanding, but I don't know much about him. So is there anything about him in particular, beyond I'm running against a Republican and the Republican Party writ large, but is there anything in particular about Arnold Mooney that you would want listeners to know that makes you a better choice than him individually?
Well, a couple of things that he's done over his past two terms in the legislature is that I think that a lot of people would be would question is that he was one of the legislators that brought the anti-abortion legislation to fruition throughout the state. Like he's one of the ones that has been at the forefront of pushing a anti-choice agenda here in the state. And another thing is that he was the sponsor of the enshrinement of the right to work law here in the state of Alabama. One of the things that, of course, it was been on the books here in the state of Alabama statutorily for years, but in 2016, I believe that's when it came to the voters through via constitutional amendment, and he was the main sponsor for that legislation. And it's funny that I saw a post on one of his social media sites a while back. He was speaking on the way that coal miners were helping push an electric car that had stalled to a place to get recharged. But the thing is that you were trying to highlight coal miners, but you're not doing what you can in the legislature to actually stand up for them. So that's one of the things I'm running to go to Montgomery is to show that people here in this state that there is another choice. So and like I said, he's probably one of what you call like one of those run of the mill ultra conservative Republicans that really want to focus on issues that are designed to distract, deceive, and divide us. But I want to focus on the issues that bring us all together, that actually bring us together as a state, and actually makes us a better state here in the nation.
Yeah, there were several Republicans that shared that story from Breitbart as well. Some like West Virginia coal miners pushing this electric car that broke down or whatever. And like whatever, haha, that's funny. But and I wouldn't even care so much about like just exactly like you said, like whatever. Okay, you can joke about this and you can say it's funny if you have mentioned the coal miners who are on strike in Brookwood once in the past 500 days. Like I'll give you a pass to make this joke and share this post because it's a little funny, but it's so frustrating using these people as political props, knowing that people like Arnold Mooney and the rest of the Alabama Republicans have done absolutely nothing for the Alabama coal miners. Like, we have coal miners in this state, and they've been on strike for a year and a half, and they haven't said anything about them. If anything, they've been reading out Warrior Met press releases, this international private equity firm-owned corporation from, out of state. This is an out-of-state corporation, and they've been reading their press releases. And
I've been in conversation with a coal miner there that actually he worked there, but he had to actually find another job, to care for his family and make sure that they survive. But he was telling me, like, when it first started, like around April 2021, was that the Warrior Met Coal, they tried to offer the miners maybe like a $1.50 raise. Like, they would give them $1 raise immediately, but gave them 50 cents over a few years or something to that nature. But I don't know how that people can survive on that if they're giving their all to, especially from years before when the company was at the threat of being a bankruptcy. the workers actually came together to make sure that they'll cut their salary, cut no benefits to ensure that the company survived, but only on the promise that they would get those benefits back once
Mm-hmm.
the company is at a better financial position. But
Yeah, they
again,
took a
the
$6 or
company didn't.
$7 an hour pay cut, a $6 or $7 an hour pay
Exactly,
cut, and they're saying, "Oh, we'll
and they
give
only
you back
offer
a
them
buck
dollar
50
fifty.
over 5 years." Yeah.
Yes, and that's not and at people like worker Alabama workers need to have their work value, and that's what I would love to do when I go to the legislature. It's like I want to ensure that those that the unions have a voice down there, and there's someone that can actually listen to them to ensure that we protect workers' rights and protect the workers' benefits here in the state. To ensure that they have the right to address as a redress to to the employers to ensure that they have the benefits needed to survive. This past Labor Day, I went to the labor celebration at Tannehill, and I spoke to a lot of miners out there. They're very upset about how they think that that the legislature isn't listening to them, and that's going for like Democrats and Republicans.
Mm.
And they just feel like they're just shouting at the air, but no one's listening to them. So and I say again, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected to the state legislature, I just want the workers of Alabama to know that they will have someone that will listen to them and someone that will be a voice for them on the House floor.
Yeah. What would you say your your approach and philosophy is in general when it comes to labor unions?
Well, like I said, if I won't say that we promise the world to everyone. I mean, I think that's what he said. That's what politicians will do. They'll promise the world to everyone. But my approach would be to, as I would probably treat anyone, I will have an open ear and an open mind to everyone that comes to me. Like more than likely, we're going to agree on everything that comes to me as it pertains to unions. But again, like I said, I won't make any promises that that I will give the world or I can move mountains to make sure something happens. But if you come to me and then we agree on the particulars of what we need to do to make sure that your voice is being heard in Montgomery, I will listen and then I'll do my best to work hard to make sure it happens. But I know that that's I just don't want to give uh, any Alabama workers the false hope that we're going to do things at 110% the way that they think they should be done. But I still want to give people a chance that there will be a representative down there that will actually listen to them and not just give lip service to what they decided and just ignore them when they get elected.
Yeah, and I think that's always been my approach to elected officials. I don't expect you to agree with me 100% of the time. I don't even agree with me 100% of the time. I change my mind.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, I don't expect that, but what I do expect is elected officials will try to represent the people of their district and have an open ear to everyone involved, not just the lobbyists, not just the big donors, but the little folks too. The folks who do the work in your district, the folks who pay the taxes, the folks who make up our communities. And I think that's where I've run into issues with politicians. It's the ones who have a closed ear. They're not receptive.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to listen. They don't want to have dialogue with their constituents. It's only certain constituents, the important, wealthy ones, that get their ear, and all the rest of us feel like we're not represented. So yeah, I appreciate your emphasis on that.
Yeah, again, like I said, when I went to that event on Labor Day, that was the main thing that I heard from the union folks down there is that they just feel that the politicians aren't listening to them, and that's going for all parties. And I I could hear the frustration in their voice. I could see the frustration in their eyes. And then when they see me coming around, another politician asking for their vote, they say, "Oh, here comes another politician. It's going to disappoint us." But I told them, they said that if you do get elected, don't get corrupted by I guess the power and the money that you will more than likely will be thrown at you. So like I said, if you're elected and then 4 years later you come around, said don't make us want to,
Run
get
you
mad
off.
at you because
Yeah.
run me off. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they weren't shy. They were not shy at all about to
I
say
know
that,
they were
but
not.
Yeah, I know.
they were not shy.
We know them well enough
But
now. We know they were not.
they were not shy, but I assured them. I said, even if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I won't be just come around in 4 years. I'll always be there. So then they can always come down to me and have that ear. And said more than likely we're going to agree on most of the things that they come to me about. But again, there will always be an open door policy for anyone that will come down to meet with their legislator to make things happen. There's a friend of mine who's actually running for a state legislative seat. One of her things is always that even when she's speaking to people who aren't in her district, she said, you may not be able to vote for me, but I would most certainly vote for you." So that's going to be my philosophy as a state legislator. Like I said, I will be the District 43 representative, but I will also represent all Alabamians.
Economic development is a really, really big thing across the state, but particularly, in North Alabama, we're seeing, a boom of industry come here, and but there's a lot happening across the state as well. You've got the Amazon, around Jefferson County, for one, is a big economic development type thing, and in a lot of these instances, they are just getting blank checks from state and local governments to, big tax breaks without any checks and balances on them, on the way that they have to treat their workers to be able to get these millions of dollars in taxpayer money. No environmental strings or anything like that. That they're just these huge, like I said, blank checks. How would you handle, to the extent that you could as a legislator, economic development?
Well, one of my main philosophies about that is that I guess if any elected official, they will welcome economic development to their areas, to their districts, to their cities. But again, I say I may be just a ordinary guy, the ordinary citizen running for office, but I just don't feel that we should just give blank checks away. I don't feel that we should just give up the bank just to say that we brought a particular company to our particular district or our particular city or county. But I think there are ways that we can still attract economic development to our area without having to, without any accountability. Like I said, you wouldn't want to elect an official to any public office without any accountability. So why would we want to entrust the company to come to our area without any accountability or any buy-in with that community? So again, like one of my main things, like I said, to the extent that I could, attract economic development to my area as a legislator, it's just that my philosophy that we shouldn't just give up the bank and actually get buy-in from those companies to ensure that we have a more wholesome community, a more connected community.
So let's talk about Democrats for a second. If every single Democrat on the ballot won, they would still be a minority. Probably, you're going to be looking at Democrats being a super minority. And so, we can talk about all, we can and we should, and, it's important that voters understand where you are and what you would want to do if you could, but also it's important for, I think, voters to understand the limitations and what you want to do within those limitations. What would be your style of representation as a minority, probably a super minority? How would you use your position as a state representative to advance these causes and advance other issues affecting working people, to help working people, even if you're not going to be able to pass legislation in this quadrennium?
Well, the thing is that yeah, there's a very high possibility that we will be a super minority if I am elected to the legislature. That even if we all the seats that are being contested in the state house, if we're all elected, we'll still be in the minority, but we can at least break the super majority there is down there right now. But my thought process on what I would do as a member of the legislature, like I said, more than likely we will be in we will be in the minority party, but of course we would have to work across the aisle to make things happen. But just to work across the aisle doesn't mean that we have to give up on our principles. We should have like a certain set of I guess principles that we will stand up for. Like I said, is focusing on those issues that I feel that we all have in common, such as what I'm running on. Getting rid of the grocery tax, expanding Medicaid, and then investing in our students. I will work to find ways to make sure that happens. But again, I said, as you said, that the expectations of what one legislator can do that is very high for some people. Like some people may not understand exactly what one legislator can do, but it's best to have that legislator there to stand up for you, to voice your what you are what you hold dear that you want to have accomplished in the state legislature. So again, as I told you before, as what the way that I will deal with unions or anyone that comes to me, I will have an open ear, and then and everything that I will do will be on behalf of the people of my district and also the people of Alabama. And that's what I feel that all elected officials, especially those who are elected to the legislature, should have. They should have that the average voter in mind whenever they make decisions on anything that affects the state. So again, that's the only thing that I can promise to you and to all the voters who are in my district, and then I'll tell Alabamians that I will be an open ear and an open door for everyone to come voice their opinions to me, and then we will work together to try to find the best, option for all of us to make the state the best that it can be.
Is there anything else that we didn't touch on today that you would that you want to mention? Make sure that our audience understands.
Well, one of the main things that I know that is kind of a issue that is like burning is the move to protect choice for women throughout the state and then throughout the country. Again, as I said, one of my opponent is one of his main issues that he's fought over for the past 8 years is to limit choice for women here in the state of Alabama. And as we know, throughout seems like every election, we would have like a constitutional amendment on the ballot to that would in some way limit healthcare choices for women. And then, as you know, for this past summer with the SCOTUS ruling that basically gutted Roe versus Wade, that the dog has finally caught the horse. I mean, the dog has finally caught the car. But one of the main things that I will do is to ensure that we will but search for ways to make sure that we protect a woman's right to make her own healthcare choices. And I know it's going to be hard here, especially if we're going to be a minority party down there. But we can definitely still fight to ensure that the Republican majority doesn't wreak havoc on the women throughout the state.
Absolutely, yeah, that's very important, and yeah, very important. Glad you mentioned that. Prince Cleveland, running for Alabama House District 43. Where can people find you if they want to learn more?
Okay. Well, you can go to princeforalabama.com. That's PRINCEFOR Alabama.com. And I'm also on social media on Facebook, on Instagram as Prince for Alabama. You can find me on Twitter. That's Prince, the number 4 Alabama. You can go there to read up more about me, to sign up to volunteer, and also to donate to this campaign so that we can get our message out to the people here of District 43 to ensure that we have another, as I say, common sense Democrat going down to the Alabama legislature to protect our rights and to protect our choices here in the state of Alabama.
Prince, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Well, thank y'all for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.